Welcome to the Heroic Rounds recap of A Wizard's Folly Season 1, Episode 1.
And 2.
I have some questions for you
Okay.
about sessions,
Session
the first episodes. Let's do some recap. It's time for the recap rally.
Yep.
Let's get scrappy with the recappy.
Good, I'm going to pull out my notes.
Good. Look at you taking notes. You've always been the note taker, though.
Yeah.
You know who doesn't take a single note but remembers everything? Jon.
What's my character's name?
Shit. You just...
Some dumb guy.
What is the name?
Orsini, my guy.
My last name.
Flavius Orsini.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow, he got it.
Trying to
His
see if I
memory
wrote
banks
it
have
down.
been whir for a second.
Flaccid dude.
Do you know how I do that?
Flaccid
Do you know how I do that?
Huh.
Ginkgo biloba.
It's Ginkgo to Biloba.
Ginkgo bilobas.
Ginkgo to Bilobas. Welcome back to Heroic Round, where we're all super high on Ginkgo to Biloba.
Vitamin C.
Yeah, vitamin C. Oh, we got our monthly shot of vitamin C. You need to bring another one of those back.
Yeah.
Okay, so first question that I've got for you guys is, how did it feel knowing that it wasn't pretend anymore and we were playing for keeps? Because we did a bunch of freebie practice sessions. What was it like doing the first sessions and knowing that it was recorded for an audience to hear?
I thought for a second we were going to party wipe.
Really?
Yeah, when we were fighting that, all the guys in the tree huts. I was like,
Oh, right.
shit, Zach won't shut up. We're gonna PK.
Oh yeah, like when all of the soldiers were coming out of the woods, it was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, we're gonna just get
We're
wiped
just
out.
gonna PK and it'll be fine.
There were a bunch of times where I was like, this voice isn't working and I need to stop. And then I was like, no, it's being recorded. I have to
Just
commit. And now I'm
commit.
like, is it just going to feel cringy?
I like it. That's my opinion on the
Brandon
voice.
kinda
Is
made
I
me feel
actually
like,
really
it was
like it.
cringy.
Really? Did
Did
you
I?
tease him about the voice?
No tease.
No, I didn't.
He just didn't support me. So
What does support look like in this situation?
What is
what you just did.
wait? What does
Oh,
support
where I
look
told you
like
it looks
when you
good.
don't tell me what you need?
I'm sorry. Anticipate my needs.
You know what? That's
Where are the pizzas I did not
Yeah.
ask
that's
for?
on me.
Oh, it's good. Yeah. So speaking of voices, so you have your voice. You're worried it's cringe.
Yeah,
I actually think it's good. I really
Thank you.
like it. I like that you're committed to
I
it.
appreciate that.
And I like too that it's not, because what do you think of when you think of like a dwarf voice?
It's Scottish.
Yeah. Right? I kind of love that it's not, because everybody always does that Scottish brogue, which is cool, but you don't have to do that for a dwarf. I think it's sweet. I really like it. What do we think of Brandon's character's voice?
Whoa! Why does everybody else get to talk about my characters?
I love that it's Zach Galifianakis from
It
Mastermind.
really is.
Just
I thought,
it's my
yeah,
beef.
Fuji's and Funyuns.
Fuji's
I freaking love it.
It's a great voice.
I'm into it. I like it a lot.
Are you gonna love it?
How are you feeling
like
about
it.
your voice?
Good. I like it. I don't want it to come across as like a trope, like gay, which I don't think it comes across that way. But
You don't need to stereotype gay people.
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
It's good.
No, I don't think it's gay. I personally think it's gay, but I don't think it's gay.
That's fair.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Zach, about the voices? Because you're not really doing a voice.
Yeah, I really. What I'm trying to do is just make it so my normal pace of speech, and then I switch into Flavius. It's a little bit more direct and to the
Yeah.
point, and the cadence is a little bit
Yeah.
different.
Well, and I'm not saying that it's not like you're acting.
Oh, no.
As I say you're doing that, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
mean you're not putting on an accent.
No, because I think it's important just for me to mentally be like, okay, I'm not like
Mhm.
out of game speech and then being in game,
Yeah.
having more of a like, hey, direct.
Well,
more
I'll tell you
cadence to me.
in editing, like when you speak normally, your voice was louder,
Oh, really?
and when you're speaking as Flavius, it's a little more like tight and
Oh,
a little softer.
interesting.
Okay. That's
Is
good to
that
know.
good or is that bad?
That's fine.
Is that
But did
feedback
it
or
help?
you're
Did
just
you feel like
noticing?
it? Like I felt like it when I
It
was
was easy to
listening it.
identify, like when you're speaking in character and when
Because when I was listening to it, I was like, did that come through just for me? Because I'm so hyper aware of it. But
That's cool. Okay, so what do you guys think of the setting so far?
It's cool.
What's cool about it? What do you like? What do you like or don't like, or what things are coming up for you?
It just feels classic fantasy, and I think that's fun.
That's cool.
to me, the perfect little like kiss of it was realizing that the Green Man's vendetta
Mhm.
against the Bandit King was that he stole kiss from his fiance.
The stakes are all of a sudden like,
Whoa!
Whoa,
It's
yeah.
fun to come in because we
That's
have
cool.
all this experience, and we come talking to the serpents, the head of the serpent, and so it was fun to talk to the green man. It had to be like,
we're here to investigate a murder, and he's like, I will catch this man that stole a kiss from my bride.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Like the stakes of it are totally different.
it's fun.
Well,
It's a good
it's also
juxtaposition.
coming from I feel like it's coming from a campaign where we were just playing in our practice beforehand. You're like dealing with a demigod that's super evil, and there's like cannibalism happening and stuff.
Whoa,
Crazy
what?
things.
Yeah, we went from
Can't use that word.
Whoa.
we
I
went
don't
from what's
remember
his
that.
bucket having to eat his friends
Yeah.
to the green man being mad someone kissed.
That imagery was one of my favorite
That was
pieces.
a pretty cool spot.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was really nice.
It was
I really
cool.
liked it.
That was cool. All right, any other thoughts about the setting so far?
I like that we don't know a ton about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of fun to see, like just not know.
It's
So
fun,
there's lots of
fun to get
discovery.
bits and pieces that we know that there's an important harbor
Mm.
that the convicted murderer was a part of.
Alleged. He's
Alleged.
innocent until proven guilty.
Well, I'm the one who will declare that. So,
The one who will
Yes.
declare.
And I think that's up to God's army.
Who's the mouthpiece of God?
Zombie.
Not God's army.
You hate God's army.
Sorry, Carl was like, oh, I really like it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing
Yeah, Brandon's strategy is to wear you down.
The problem is that
Eventually you'll
Brandon.
say it. And then
Not only does Brandon love it, he loves that we hate it, so he's not going to drop it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
that
full
was-
cape.
he's gonna worry it like a dog with a bone.
Uh-huh.
So, what do you think of each other's characters?
I hate
this was kind of the first time. Oh, you hate him? Let him have it. This was the first time you were in with these characters playing in a session together. You had talked theoretically about kind of your backgrounds before the sessions, but how are you guys feeling about the characters, both your own and each other's?
I love that there's representation of like a classic party where we've got a human, an elf, and a dwarf. I
Mhm.
think that's so cool.
Yeah, that is sweet.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's interesting that you guys don't trust my character already somehow.
I never said that.
You didn't have to say it. Is that a default though? Our
At
default
least I can
setting is
play
to
it
not
off.
trust Brandon. Brandon is the one that we don't trust.
Yeah,
I can just play it off as like, oh, he's an elf, I'm a dwarf, right? But no, we're always afraid of Brandon's mother.
No, I think the way that Flavius is approaching it is that I would have more trust in Brandon if he came from my sect from the church. Because I don't have trust from, what was the name of the NPC we're traveling with?
Mr. Tibbets.
I don't trust
Virgil
Mr. Tibbets just because the same way that
He's from the order.
he's from the
Basically,
Order of the Crown.
he's basically sucking your dick though.
I know,
He
but you
loves
should.
He freaking loves you.
So,
Yeah. What do you think of Tibbets?
He's a stooge.
Yeah.
What? I think he's great.
I love Tibbets.
He's all about Orsini. Just,
Mhm.
oh, you're the best.
That Orsini weenie.
No, I'm not trying to come with any preconceptions about Brandon's character.
You know, I
It's,
appreciate
it's
that.
the idea of like, I love that he's like so gung ho
Uh-huh.
to
I
help
just,
it.
I just love God.
Exactly, and that's the reason it's like, oh, you're totally into
I
this,
don't believe you're into this. Yeah.
and so like it
Your
just needs,
false faith.
he needs
doesn't
to prove it
you.
out. So
Yeah,
I
but,
think that's
but why?
Flavius's
I mean,
approach.
that's in a setting where the default is like a theocracy. Why wouldn't you?
Mhm.
Because in my mind, I want the glory
Yeah,
to go to the.
God.
I want the glory to
Sorry.
go to the house of the serpent and my family.
God's army. Yeah.
Well, and so I think that there's a good point too. You guys were all assembled by the church. You were brought together by it. So I mean, there's an element of like you don't know each other's background, but you do know enough to know that the church trusted you all to work together.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. But I do think that there's a natural inclination to not trust Brandon, given the history.
But I have
Not
never
even
done
no.
anything.
It's just
It's
yeah.
just suspicious.
I've never done anything wrong. With my
I apologize,
life.
but you once sold my character. You once bet my character's life without my knowledge.
That
first
was a
of
great
all,
moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
But I'm just saying, like, you
But-
want to try to play this innocent
But
action. but
technically, you never knew about that.
So, what hooks are you most interested in exploring so far?
The murder?
The murder.
the green religion, I think
Okay,
that's
the
interesting,
green faith.
right? For
What?
seeing like
What's that face about?
That's my faith. You know, there's nothing suspicious there.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting of like why they're not worshiping the way.
Oh,
they should.
you mean what's up with the green faith here?
Yeah.
specifically?
Why is the temple, the church we went to,
Yeah.
not that of the
Sure.
church, but that of the green faith?
Mhm.
So
It's
Interesting.
a totally valid religion, and they have the right to worship how they would like.
Do they?
What they may.
That's good.
I like all the hooks. I think they're great. I really liked that the castle is like underground.
Yeah, it was sick.
It's kind of fun. It has like a fun vibe. Also, one thing about like the whole like aura or like the vibe of the session is, or so far, is like it almost feels like we're dealing with children in the sense that it's like very innocent and like lighthearted, like you were saying, talking about like stealing a kiss from someone's betrothed. It makes it like a fun, like, oh, you have no idea what we've done.
yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, it's kind of a fun, like, I'm not saying that we're better than them because we worship the one true God, but
We're better than them.
God's army, y'all.
There you go. That's great. So, if you could do any, John, like you look disappointed. Anything going on?
No.
Have something you want to share with the class?
Hey, we can't use God's army. It's a copyrighted material.
It's copyrighted.
But also, you don't get demonetized for saying God's army.
But they can
You just get
copyright
copyright
strike it
strike,
down.
and then no one gets to see it.
You're
Because
right.
if we ever make any supplementary material from this, and we
Can't be wearing sweaters that say God's Army. It's got to say the SS. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Serpent Squad,
That's not even it. That's not even
Serpent Squad,
God's army, y'all.
Serpent Squad,
God's army, y'all.
Serpent Squad.
The
Every time you say
sacred-
God's army, I'm
sacred
just going to say
serpents.
Serpent
That's
Squad.
okay.
Sacred
We'll just cut it
circles.
out in post.
Serpent Squad.
I didn't.
John,
I
what do
said
you like?
post.
I think I'm just going to delete this recording.
You don't like
Yeah,
this
for
so much.
real.
Okay, let's keep moving.
We do need to try to not talk over each other as much. Also,
That sucks.
And go.
You have something to say? We're gonna let Brandon go first.
Who's the worst at it?
I feel like I do it naturally a lot.
yeah, but you have Kate Blanche on that because
Mother fucker.
I hated that one.
That one was
First,
It was the best one.
It was.
I know it was. It felt dirty.
Uh-huh.
It felt dirty, but
I'm trying to defend myself
It
against
felt like
God's
you- it
army
felt like
and
you-
Kate Blanchett for this whole entire night.
It felt like you threw a drink in all of our faces at the same time. That's what that felt like.
okay. So you
It's
guys
giving him so much power. Speaking of
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
His aura is insane right now.
my energy vampire.
Yeah.
You guys aren't in the room with us, but Brandon's literally glowing.
I think he's erect at this moment.
50-50.
50-50.
I do talk over, but I think you should talk over people sometimes. Like you are the one that should be talking over people because you're the game master, right? The dungeon master, as it were.
That's
So,
nice.
Yeah.
I get permission. Okay, so what would you do differently if you could go back? If you were doing the first session over again, is there any choices you were like, oh, I wish I would have done that a little different?
I can't make choices for other players, right?
No, you can. I think this is a good time to be like, I don't like that they did this. I would
No, I
have
was
preferred
just
something else.
joking. I was going to say, not say God's Army 50 times.
Okay.
It might have been good to like take that part a little bit more serious in terms of
What
because
do we
you
name
dropped
ourselves?
it. You dropped it as like I think it's the first time where you actively asked us what we want to be named.
Yeah,
So it feels like it's an important thing that we probably should have talked about
sure.
before we moved on.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. That's the one thing I'm like, oh, it might have been a little bit good. Not trying to.
It's
I'm not
actually-
trying to downplay your Guards Army because it still would have been funny if we called ourselves what we should be calling ourselves.
I think it's funny if there's a group argument about what you should call yourselves. I could see that playing in the future as being like a funny ongoing thing. You know what I mean? Where
'Cause
you're
it-
introducing yourselves in different ways. People, you guys are kind of frustrated at each other. I think it's cute. I think it's
Back
funny.
in the boys.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Because I think it's very real. And it's funny too because you can almost see it playing out that way in like a movie. You know?
It's funny to have that pushed on us to be like, what do you want to talk? What do you want to call us?
And it's also very natural to, I think, to have a strong disagreement about it in this group, which I think is really funny.
Absolutely.
I think it's
knew it was
perfect.
coming.
I think it's perfect.
I knew there things like this were going to pop up, and
Uh-huh.
Brandon was just going to write it.
Uh-huh.
I just don't understand why you guys don't want to be God's army. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I already said
I don't
think
even
we
belong
did
to
it.
the same faith you do.
I can't
That's
even
right.
think of it without that stupid trailer playing in my head for God's Army.
What trailer?
For God's Army, they're sitting at the table
I
arguing
never
about
watched
it
it.
in a missionary. Like
I never
Two missionaries are sitting at a table arguing about their faith, and that's whenever you say God army, it's like whoonk, like out of it.
Just takes you right there.
I like it.
The whole
Okay.
2 years.
Anything else that you feel like you would do differently? if you go back?
I probably wouldn't
tongue in
have.
cheek, by the way. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
I probably wouldn't have tasted the blood. I wasn't trying to drink the blood. I was just trying to add a little flavor to me, like.
Sorry, you wouldn't have done that differently though.
I don't know. I
love it.
What do you think of the blood, by the way? What do you guys think is going on with it?
Lycanthropy.
Yeah? Like werewolfism.
Yeah, I'm trying not to meta play too much.
Sure.
So when I'm investigating it, because that's like my character's like secondary aspect of his investigating things were sent
Yeah.
out. So I'm trying to take that in. So thinking like, oh, you tasted the blood, so it could be transferred by a bite. Did you get bit by something there? So I'm not trying to come out and be like, oh, it is lycanthropy. Oh, it's his magical blood. Flavius
And
is
he's
very
like, I did get bit by a dog or whatever.
Right, so we saw his wound for it.
Oh yeah, bit by that guy in the bar, but it
Yep.
looks like a dog.
But it looked like a dog
Yeah,
bite.
yeah,
So it's
okay.
kind of fun to explore that,
It's
but
fun.
not heavily meta play, because like obviously
It's hard. It's hard to do that when you've played so many years.
But it makes it fun because it's one aspect of D&D that I like is to bring like that aspect into it, because I think it will help people see like, oh, this is how you can easily play D&D continually without like leveraging and kind of destroying what's been planned just because you happen to know, oh, like lycanthropy is transferred by blood, so I can't be bitten, so it's going to try to attack me or anything.
All right,
like
let's
that.
look for Wolfsbane.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
like that. So it's fun
Uh-huh.
to kind of discover that.
Foolproof way is just never read a book ever.
Yeah, but you already know. You know the stuff. Because I think one of the things that I've always struggled with, especially with this group where we've played so many years and so many campaigns, is how do you make the old feel new again? You know, when you run into goblins or orcs or kobolds or whatever, like how do you make them feel new again? That's like really tricky, I think, in a lot of ways, because unless you have a new player at the table, it's not new. You know, vampires, it's not new. You know, it's like, oh, we've done that a ton of times and it's fun, but it's like, it's not really new.
What I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
What are you going to say?
I was just gonna say short answer, backdoor.
Backdoor.
Loophole,
Nothing.
loophole?
Yeah, that one.
What? I don't understand what just happened to us.
It's fine. I was gonna cut somebody off like 2 minutes ago, and it would have been a dirty joke, but
Okay.
sorry.
Damn it.
Well, the
We
thing
missed
is, even though right now I may expect it to be lycanthropy,
Mhm.
since I've played with you so often, I can't count on it being lycanthropy.
Yeah. Well, I have a tendency too to want to make you think it's something and then make it something
Yeah.
different.
So
And that's maybe just an asshole thing.
I don't think it's an asshole thing. I think it adds a lot of like plausible differences. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
exactly what you think it is to
Yeah.
be still as effective.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and on that same note, like because we've been friends for so long, and like we've read a lot of the same books, like sometimes you can see like flavor if like when we were both reading the Dark Tower series.
Yeah.
There was like flavor in there that was a very Dark Tower-esque.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I can see where some of these hooks are coming for. Like I can get the vibe, or like maybe I'm picturing things a little bit differently.
Mhm.
But it's nice to be like, okay, we've been doing this so long that like I try not to like disassociate. I'm like, oh, that's a fun nod to that.
Mhm.
But it ruins it if you follow, like if I were to follow that line of logic and be like, okay, well, in this story this happens,
Sure.
or like this book that we've both read.
Yeah.
Like, so if it's something that's like a derivative of that, because no one has any new ideas,
Sure.
right? Except for you,
no,
just you.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but
I totally know what you mean.
You
like,
should have been like, oh, we go to outer space and kill the giant turtle.
right?
Dark turtle.
It's
So-
turtles all the way down.
It's turtles all the way down. But yeah, so it's like having years of that to be like, okay, like
Mhm.
let's pull it apart, or even like, even if we had like an Artees character, right, that was like a mimic of like Dristuarn, or like my first character whose name was Strider that
Mhm.
shot a bow, right, like that used a bow. Yeah. So
Super
like
cool.
I was,
Cool.
it was like 5th grade, but yeah, it's
I
like
think it's cool.
separating it
Yeah.
and making it something.
I like that. No, it's a good call out. It's a great call out. And so what I'd love to do is get a sense of like, maybe, well, before we do this, there's one other thing I wanted to share, which is like flubs. So I wanted to share a couple of what I think were mistakes that I want to go back and fix, if that makes sense for my part. Does Is that okay?
Yeah.
So one of them is Briarwood, which was funny that you brought up afterwards, which is this idea that I threw a name in there that is also part of a really famous TTRPG. And so without knowing it. And so it's like, crap, I don't want to use Briarwood. So in this session, I'm going to be changing that name, the Briarwood name, because I just don't want to have it in there. So there's that. The other thing is I hadn't decided yet or made clear yet what the tenets of your faith are really clear, what your church is actually called, all that kind of stuff. And so there were things that I think were just kind of loosey-goosey. So even in the original letter that you guys got, it like made references to the Lord of Light and stuff. Like that's not what it is. So like I've had to rewrite the letter and stuff just to try to go back and correct what I think are just some mistakes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other thing is the symbols of the church were there was like the serpent, the crown, and the sword. I actually want to change it now that I've gotten clear, which is serpent, crown, and shield. It makes more sense for the story and everything. But you can see there's like these little things that I want to make different. So I did create a document about the church that I want to share with you guys that just has everything I've made up so far about the faith so that you guys have it. Because you would know. Does that make, what I mean? Like you guys would have this knowledge. And so I want to make sure that you've got this in front of you. So that'll help. I will put the letter. I'm going to put the rewritten letter at the bottom of this document after a line so that you can see the spots that I edited. And I apologize. It's just it was just a mistake, So in the letter, just to go through it really quick. So it says, "Dear friends of the threefold quest," rather than "of the high faith," was what it said before. And then it's talking about Prior Thelian perished in an accident. He succumbed to his wounds. We don't know what beast had slain him. We know that you'd proven your prowess before the great answerer many times rather than the Lord of Light, which was what it said before. And then please remember to obey the signs within. It used to say Briarwood, but now it says Thornhaven. That doesn't sound familiar to anybody, does it? I did some Google searching. What you about to say?
No,
Okay.
I'm sure I had some smart ass comment.
So Thornhaven is what it'll be called. And then on the quest for the ultimate answer rather than in the light of the Lord, which was what it said before. Okay. And then from the Silent Brothers of Thornhaven. So this is things where I'm just like, they're like little details I wish that I had fleshed out beforehand. And they're just flubs. They're things that I would take back if I can, but can't. So now just moving forward, we'll fix it. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So any thoughts about that, those changes or things before we dig into the final question?
No.
Cool. And then maybe we can go talk about the religion piece in a second. But
maybe there is one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a housekeeping. Like, do we want to move over to like play session?
Oh, I want to get one more question.
Yeah. Okay.
So the last question is rate the last session 1 to 10 and why. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, in the sense of, is there anything else I'd rather be doing? No, 10 out of 10, right?
Sure. Well, I don't think it's necessarily that. It's like you've been compared to our best, compared to our best sessions that you've ever had with us.
I'd say 7.
Okay, great. And then tell us a little bit about that.
Only just thinking about the chariot race.
Yeah.
The Panathinaik Amphora, that's like tops,
That was
right?
pretty
Or
incredible.
Voyovola, like there's so many good sessions.
Yeah.
And this one was a good session. I think we were all engaged. We were all like
Yeah.
interested. And so I'm like, quality, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that any session has ever been lower than a 5, except for maybe, I can't even think of the name of it.
Did you freeze up? Is that what? It was such a bad session.
Did you burp or fart? There's a session I remember once where we spent the whole time trying not to fall into this water.
Oh my god, the armor at the bottom of that, yeah.
Yeah, there was like everyone failing their swim checks, people drowning for rounds.
That was pretty rough.
That was pretty rough. I remember that. That was in the
And I was thinking that, I can't think of the name.
Mr. Remembers Everything, my ass.
No, the Nicolich are going off to talk to.
Oh.
That was a hard
I
session.
think what's interesting is that a lot of I didn't mean to talk over you
No,
guys,
no.
but I think a lot of those sessions are bad sessions are often caused by an individual choices.
Maybe.
I remember there was one where it was like, we don't want to get on the sidebar, but
Oh, bless you.
Frozen. See, it happens.
Yep.
Mhm.
Let it go.
I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but just like a session where someone's actions completely vibes out the rest of the group.
Or like go against the group's dynamic or the ends of the group. That can be really hard.
Which, oddly enough, I can't think of you ever doing that, Brandon.
I would say that.
I was gonna say one thing to what you were saying, John. I think that the thing about those great sessions that you mentioned is that they were earned.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the Panathinaikon 4 was the first session of a new
It
campaign,
was Act 2, but
it was Act 2. So we had already had however many sessions together with those characters, building story and building to that moment. Like it was like you knew the world intimately, you were parts of it, you were influencing it. So I feel like it was really earned, which is pretty fun. I like that. So 7 out of 10. So what would you say, Brandon?
I would say that to Zach's point, I think people out, like even if it's like a bad session in game, like things are happening, I think out of game, if somebody's having like an off night or like they're not feeling like they're sick or they're hungry, myself, I get hangry, but like that or like whatever, people can have a bad night and it can ruin a D&D session.
Yeah.
And like, so for this one, like what we had already all decided, if somebody's not feeling it and it's clearly off, like we're just going to call it, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, more often I think it's more the people out of game than the story driven bad sessions, right? Like dice sometimes, but it's and story driven occasionally, but mostly it's just like people not vibing for whatever reason.
Yeah, people's emotions and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And we've all been there. It's 100%. Been all of us. We're all guilty of it.
100%.
I would say 6 out of 10.
Cool.
Only because, like to your point, like I never have felt like the first session, like there's like a fun excitement with a new session and like new characters, but there's no like big payoff. Like there's nothing like to unfold. So like they're great and it was fun. It feels very like light and fresh and like this fun like reset on like a slight twist on fantasy.
Sure.
But like that. I would say that I thought our characterizations were great. I really liked that, and it felt like we slipped into those really easy. Like it was really fun. What I felt was a little clunky was like our mechanics in the game, and like so like one thing that we often do is like if we're not planning on having a combat, we don't set up a battle mat or something because it's pretty like whatever.
Sure.
So like it felt a little clunky, just like us like being like, oh like shit, I don't remember how to like exactly do things, or I mean even though we've been playing regularly, I don't know, it just felt like different spells or like different abilities and like movement and stuff like that. So it felt kind of like there was like a little bit of clunkiness, but I think that was also because we were like in front of mics. Right?
Oh, could have been.
So like,
so you're talking about the moment when you're dealing with Homeboy on the road, and then it turned into like a kind of a mini combat where he was trying to flee, you guys were chasing him, casting entangle, all that kind of stuff. It felt a little clunky. Okay.
And like, just like there, and then there was a little bit of clunkiness with like when we were talking with he's such a good character, the guy in the tree with the dick hat.
Sir Landon Thorne.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
the acorn helm.
Yeah.
It's like a penis helmet. Yeah.
So it's like those, but I think generally it was a good session. I thought, it was really fun.
Cool. Awesome. What about you, Zach?
I agree with Brendan. It's the idea. It's probably like a 6.5, 7.
Yeah.
In terms of like overall session, but I think in terms of a first session, everybody really came prepared with what their characters were. Felt like their solid motivation, solid background in terms of like what their characters want to do, what they're trying to accomplish.
Cool.
So I felt that was really cool. It felt fun to have like a focus for like a first session. Like everybody came and there was excitement from it. I think there's one thing, like every time like you start playing a new campaign, there's always like, oh, what if I made a character that was this? Or made a character that was that? Like, I didn't feel that at all.
Cool.
If that makes sense. So it definitely feels like it's a strong start. I'm
Do you
excited
mean-
for combat a
Do
ton.
you mean when you're saying that about characters, you mean like individuals maybe not fully inhabiting their character and saying like, maybe I'm not into this, I might want to try something different?
Yeah, kind of. Or I think like D&D is less inherent. I think if you're thinking of like a game like Rifts, where you make a character and you start playing it, or in the act of making a character, you're looking up other things and being like, oh, what if I was a fighter? Or what if I was a barbarian? Or what if I was a rogue? Like, I didn't have any of that, and it was fun that everybody, well, specifically like Jon and Brandon's characters were fun, and it's exciting. Like, I feel like everybody has subtext to what they're bringing.
Cool.
In terms of their conversations, and it's fun that everybody right now has their own motivations. It's fun to start figuring out what our group motivations will be going
It's
forward.
cool.
That's God's Army.
Right on. Right on. Anything to add to the first recap before we wrap up?
What are your feelings about the first session?
I had a lot of fun. I think that I like I had shared before, I wish that there were certain aspects that I had fleshed out a little bit more before we got in, but I'm happy that we're fleshing them out as we go. And I'm also grateful for the grace that comes from playing with people that I know and love so well, that we can figure it out as we go. So I think there's elements of like, oh, I wish I had figured that out a little more before we went. I would give the session a solid 7, in similar, to what you guys are saying. I think that there was great energy, tons of focus. Everybody was into it. I don't feel like there was any things trying to pull us away from the session, which sometimes can happen. There can be feelings of distraction, or maybe we want to goof off or just joke more and not really play. So that was fun to get in and play. I also think that it's this fun feeling too to enter into a world that is so different than the world we've just been playing in. That kind of feels fun and fresh too. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, I also I feel a lot of affinity for all of these NPCs already. I feel really excited to be working with them and having some fun stuff playing out behind the scenes that you guys don't know about, and I'm excited for that to come to the surface in future sessions. So cool. So that's the recap. That's the recap wrap with drop a beat. That's the recap wrap for our first couple of episodes. I'm assuming we split that first session into a couple of episodes of Heroic Ground. So thanks guys for letting me pick your brain. Appreciate it.